But garbage fires are comfy and cozy and warm. Don't
They got started. Oh, hey, wait, we got a menu.
Yep, and we got the sound just in time for me to talk about garbage fires being cozy. Fun times.
At least this is better than... We're just gonna do it on normal. I don't feel like struggling through... Well, to be fair, the progress you already saw was me playing it on the highest difficulty, so, I mean, I'm apparently retarded, but...
It's showing off the game either way with these teams now.
So, side note, this is from the Military Channel, which is an offshoot of the Discovery Channel. And, take everything they say with a grain of salt.
Okay, nog een barrel of salt.
Bare minimum of grain.
With an army over 7 million strong, the Nazi
Oh
warship
god, my
turns
goodness,
to the
Queen.
east and begins the invasion of the Soviet Union. Using blitzkrieg tactics, they advance quickly, smashing relentless
Yeah, see, blitzkrieg
Soviet
tactics.
defenses and arrive
Germans didn't really call it blitzkrieg tactics, they just called it tactics. It's combined arms.
short of reinforcements.
Multiple armies were using combined arms at the time, but to different degrees of success.
Recruits who must hold out against the well-trained
You had the
German
Russians with deep strategy, you had the Germans with quote-unquote blitzkrieg, you had American mechanized, all of that.
I don't know if supposed blitzkrieg as some like to call it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Blitzkrieg is just one of those after-the-fact terms, though. No?
So,
Also, hey, it's not.
Supposedly some of the people in Something Awful, yeah, I mean, again, take out even our stuff with a grain of salt. The Guards Rifle Division here may have been a better trained unit than the other Guards. It's kind of a weird thing, and I wonder how much of that's
basic training, comrade.
translation
If you
issue.
wish to survive, you will do exactly as I say.
But if it's anything like Napoleon's tactics, which a lot of World War II generals like to look at, just having a regiment that's supposed to be invincible tends to get people to fight harder when they think that the regiment's nearby.
Look at your compass. The star on the compass shows the location of your current objective. Now go to the storeroom and get a pistol and a rifle. Move!
So,
are on the table, comrade.
This is frozen potato
Now
segment.
go back and report to
yes,
the
some of the things here... Oh, God. Alright. Some of the things here, there's a very good chance we would get the Mosin M9130 here.
Very good, comrade.
Matter of fact, looking at this is a hex receiver M9130 model, which means this is one made in the 1920s or before, and it's handmade. If it's got the round part, I'm pointing at my screen like you guys can see it.
Good, now fire at the other one.
Oh
I
god.
mean, like the handle or what part?
Okay, so you're looking at the rifle there. Do you see front of the bolt, the little 3 segments?
Step up to the shooting.
It's got like the
Right.
flat surfaces.
Ready, comrades?
You pull like
Shoot
the
those
pistol,
bottles
there we
and
go.
plates.
Yep.
Imagine that they are the enemy.
That, if that's round, that's actually a later model from the late 20s or 30s.
Vasily. You will be
Right,
much
just
more accurate
gotta
that
ask
way.
something. This doesn't look too much like Rainbow Six Siege. Are you sure that's what you're playing?
Oh, hey, that apparently did not update like I told it to. Go figure.
That's a very fair point there.
No, I actually updated it. See, it should be, let's go back and laugh at the bad history, because that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to do this. What am I supposed to be doing?
Oh yeah, the screen title does say Call of Duty 2, but the actual game being played marker, the little
Yeah,
one.
it's-
Ready your aim, comrade.
That's interesting. That's also updated before I did anything.
That's enough,
Very
Vasily.
interesting.
Now, let's see how well you can do under pressure. You have 15
Break it.
seconds to shoot the helmets. Ready?
Everything
Go.
fought.
Why would you do this?
The other question is why not?
So, interesting thing, the Mosin here, I actually own one. It's actually very easy to shoot, even though it's kind of an awkwardly heavy gun.
Good, comrade. Now come over here and bash this mannequin with your rifle.
They're not cheap anymore.
That's enough, comrades. Come over here and pick up.
They're becoming less and less common.
These are potatoes.
I've got the actual
Why are we using potatoes
hex receiver
instead
here,
of
which is
using
part of the reason I recognized offhand.
Because real grenades are valuable.
Maybe I should be
In fact,
asking
they
you
are
people to
worth
buy
a
one
lot
for me,
more
so
than
that if
you
I
are.
eventually move over to the States, I can just pick it up.
No, that is incredibly illegal and will get you yelled at by the feds.
Oh, damn.
I imagine it would get you more than yelled at.
Yeah,
Step
probably.
right down the door.
Matter of fact, on the form that you're supposed to fill out, one of the questions is, are you buying this for yourself or for somebody else, stupid? So, yeah.
You're buying it for yourself temporarily, and then you sell it to someone else in a separate transaction. Because apparently that's legal for some reason.
Bitte töten Sie mich nicht! Unsere Truppen
Comrade Commissar, he says the
This is
enemy
also-
is moving.
Oh. Are you one of those people that throws frozen potatoes at everyone?
If I could go back and get more, I would.
And mobile artillery.
Yeah, but that's just weird to me.
To the southeast.
The way
It looks
buying
serious.
guns works in the US apparently works the same way as buying Alienware computers in Japan for
Go
people.
there and load up on ammunition and supplies.
That is very
Well,
weird.
Stay and take care
You are
of
not allowed to buy them for someone else, they have to live in Japan. You
Anyway,
cannot keep them for someone else for later.
One of the other things to keep in mind here in Stalingrad and whatnot, there were more Pushas than Kar 98Ks in the field. So realistically, we probably would have been handed a Pusha, not a Mosin rifle. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier.
Grab a submachine gun and make sure you
Yeah,
load up
games
the
of Call of Duty World at War have given me the impression that Mosin account was the only bolt action rifle for the Russians.
It kind of was. They had some American-made Mosins, and they also had a couple of other guns, but
Up the ladder.
as far as bolt actions go, unless they were using like stolen equipment.
Throw a smoke grenade first to conceal our movement.
Which one's the smoke grenade? Alright, there we go.
Wait!
So-
Wait for the smoke to fail!
I just wanted to show that a little bit. If you notice, there's no gunner on that half track.
Hold your positions, comrades! Just a bit more!
But you'll just get shot at.
Yeah, that's a magic machine gun.
Alright, go! Let's go!
I mean, when was that?
Also, here's the fact is in this situation, we probably would have just Molotov the half track. Because Molotovs are really... People were more than happy to use a Molotov out here.
On me!
And...
Okay!
Well, here's the thing. Video games... God, I'm gonna drive me nuts trying to remember to stand up the right way. Video games don't do a good job of telling you this, but it turns out throwing a Molotov on the back of a tank is not good for the tank.
Are you sure?
What do you mean, like
That-
the kill?
Thanks.
No, you choke the engine out, effectively. And then you get into German engineering, and then it becomes even funnier.
We need to find a way around this gate!
So this is a real thing, and you saw them on Panzer IVs as well occasionally. I don't remember what they're actually called, but it's an interesting...
It's the Germans! On the far side of those barrels! Up front! They've got us picked out!
Oh, is that like in Modern
I can't hear you, hold on. I might need to turn you up or turn the game down, I don't know which.
I got one! I got one! Get to cover!
I've definitely played this game on the hardest difficulty, because I remember this part killing me once, because they one or two shot depending.
And you just had to have your helmet poking out the teeny bit.
It's not that bad, but... I probably shouldn't be using the bolt action. I think when I did this on hard, I did it with the Papusha.
Right side!
But yeah, like, seriously, Molotovs are a lot more dangerous to even modern tanks than you'd think. It's an interesting thing, and...
It's enemy infantry! Fight
Oops,
us!
I totally forgot to reload the gun.
Oh yes, fire, man's most timeless of weapons.
Keep advancing!
Never stops being good.
It's the best!
Nerf fire when.
Please nerf.
Alright, anyway.
Ubisoft.
A couple other things, the Papusha's front sights there, you probably never would have actually used them. The gun was tolerably accurate enough for what it was, which is literally just a bullet hose. Oh god, that's a lot of grenades. Alright.
Well, the game seems to be playing smoothly enough for all of this.
Realistically, Call of Duty 2 is a good game. It doesn't have the problems that 1 had, where 1 had the enemy at the gates garbage, which is you get the rifle, you get the ammo, you get the... That didn't happen. That was World War 1.
to survive.
Wait, you sure those are not like rocket racks? I've seen those things before.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, they're rocket racks. They're just a form of artillery. I was just saying that you see them on Panzer IVs occasionally. They're kind of like the Sherman Calliope to a degree in that way.
I mean, what faction didn't put rockets on their tanks when they could?
So here we have the SVT-40, which was a good enough gun. First of all, it was also based partially on the Grand? No, the AK is based on the Grand. It uses parts from American equipment as inspiration. I don't know if we would have had one or not, honestly. That depends on if we got reinforced and a couple of other things. It was a good enough gun that the Germans blatantly stole it. The Gewehr 43 is a clone of the SVT-40 here. And the thing is that's because the Germans' Germans' Gewehr 41 was a piece of shit. It was prone to jamming, it was overcomplicated. Oops.
Did they get those parts from the Lave-Lease or something?
Yes, actually. There's some other pretty funny stuff, like there's a Soviet commander that was given the Shermans from the Lend-Lease program, and he said it was one of the best tanks they drove, but on top of that, when the Shermans got knocked out, the fake leather seats were so nice that the troops would strip the leather out of them and make boots out of them. But, like, the Sherman was an interesting tank when you start getting into the actual history of it. It had, like, an 80% survival rate, but there's not a Sherman in this game, so we're not going to worry too much about that kind of stuff. But part of this is me wanting to disavow, whatever, get rid of the idea that German equipment was superior across the board. In a lot of cases, it's actually pretty shitty. And not even that innovative. You get stuff, like, you hear about the ME-262, the jet, and how it was revolutionary, and it really wasn't. The British had a jet that they didn't want to use, the Americans had a jet that they didn't want to use. And they didn't want to use it for the same reason that the ME-262 got shot down by P-51s and P-47s regularly. And had an average engine lifetime of about 2 hours and killed more crewmen than it did enemies.
So apparently the thing that was really revolutionary is the fact they were stupid enough to use it.
Desperate enough is the word you're looking for.
Yeah.
So, the nice things we're going to say is the MP40 was actually a very good gun. That's one of the, because it was cheap, it was effective, rate of fire was low enough that it didn't have problems that the Thompson did.
Well, so what recoil or?
The Thompson's problem is it had too high a rate of fire. Like, don't get me wrong, it scared the shit out of people that were on the receiving end of it. It was a very solid gun, but it was expensive, and the rate of fire made it kind of prohibitive to use in some cases. I think the M3 grease gun's too far in the other direction, especially if you ever look at some of the field modifications they made to make the gun easier to use. Like the bolt requiring a lot of guys used wire to make the bolt easier to rack, stuff like that.
We cannot stay here, they will overwhelm us! Stay where you are! We will hold this position until help arrives!
So here, I don't know if this is an accurate version of the Russian scope or not. I'm just going to be upfront about that. I was under the impression that the Germans used the T-post, which is what we're using here, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Russians also didn't use it.
Steady, comrades!
I mean, it's literally an arrow going, aim here, stupid.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say this. This was from the trailer of the game, or from the commercials for the game, and it's still an impressive spectacle. You got the smoke rolling in, you've got the artillery coming in, and you gotta hold off the attack. Later on is more for the trailer than this, though, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, but at least this game puts it in the game. Puts the trailer stuff in the game.
So one thing... Let's see, I'll have to look at it and see here in a second. I wasn't actually looking at the bolt. Oops, that was a friendly.
What the what?
Your the spectacles taking place in is interesting as well. You got the wrecked tank and all that stuff covering the area to make cover. It's just not bricks. They tried to mix it up with the different types of cover.
Anyway, so let's take a look at the model real quick. Okay, they do have the bent bolt. So if you look at a Mosin Nagant, you've got a straight bolt and you've got a bent bolt. The bent bolt was specifically a modification made for the sniper rifle because the scope was too short to allow them to do it the other way. And they didn't want to do the offset scope like the Brits did.
Good job.
I'm not gonna take any responsibility for this.
Apart from the fact that he ran right in the sights of someone firing the gun.
Yeah.
Still wonder if you have to bend the letter to his family.
Are you kidding me? I'm probably some Russian peasant that doesn't know how to write. Considering they named him Vasily, he's probably supposed to be based on Vasily Zaitsev anyway, which is also why you're the sniper here. In which case, you actually are a farmer. I don't remember if he could write or not, though.
Probably was more of a hunter.
He might have been.
Farmers will probably both.
I'm not gonna lie, my knowledge of the Eastern Front is somewhat limited compared to some of the Western Front stuff. Largely because finding accurate information about this theater is a gigantic pain in the ass.
Because half of it is either not in English or extremely embellished.
Yes, because a lot of it is stuff like, oh, the Russian hordes, and it turns out a lot of our knowledge of the Eastern Theater comes from the Germans.
Who had to defend themselves and explain how they lost to a bunch of peasant guns.
Basically. When you get down into it, the Russians generally didn't have more troops in the field than the Germans did. And generally didn't have worse casualties than the Germans either.
But when your enemy tells your possibly to be enemy that you have a massive amount of people everywhere with a lot of guns and angry shovels, you probably don't want to correct them.
Nah, what could possibly go wrong?
And so, on that note, we're up to the MG42. What's up, Private? Or whatever the hell you are, Sergeant. What the hell happened there? Alright, anyway. The MG42 had a similar problem to the Thompson.
Yeah, another bullet way too quick.
It wasn't just that, actually. It also tended to melt the barrel, and if there was a feed failure, it blew the gun up.
No, about the feed failure, but the barrel. Didn't they have interchangeable barrels?
They do, but how many barrels are you carrying? That's why the MG42 was actually a good machine gun. However, all modern versions of it, the MG3, use a smaller caliber round and also do things like use a much lower rate of fire.
Also means that you don't have to spend 20 extra bullets on one person who's already dead.
Yeah, that's why my argument is that the 1919 is a better general purpose machine gun. It's reliable enough, it's accurate enough, it's got a good enough rate of fire, it's got interchangeable barrels. It's not the best machine gun, but
Get some explosives from the engineers and plant them where they will do some good.
I'm a
But
bit.
yes, it fun.
Here you go, comrade. Set these charges on the main supports.
Hold on, I wanted to look at something, because if I remember right, these say inert on them. Half pound net, Corps of Engineers, USA. So these are Lend-Lease sticks of dynamite.
And the fact that they're in English probably suggests it.
Probably should have done that last one outside first, or last, but whatever.
The charges are set! Get to a safe distance!
So this is the part that they definitely used from the trailer. Like, they used the other part as well, but this is the big one.
They cleared the building! Move it! Run!
Which I'll give them credit for. Again, it's another one of those good set-piece moments.
Well, so set pieces are one of the big things that sold Call of Duty to begin with, no?
Basically, yeah. Alright, so...
Are we in Stalingrad or something?
Yeah, we were... I think it was Stalingrad. It was either that or Leningrad. I'm pretty sure it was Stalingrad, because I think Pavlov's house was in one. Alright.
God damn it, Pavlov.
Tunisia, which means we're playing the British here. This is where the game starts getting into some problems. I honestly can't remember which version of the tank, the Crusader. I guess I can just look at the damn title. So I'm pretty sure these are Crusaders, but they might be Matildas. I have a hard time identifying Brit tanks outside of like the Cromwell and whatnot. Yes, British African troops actually totally rock shorts and shoes. Credit to them. So, I mean, Legion's dad shorts thing in Rainbow Six Siege at least has some historical accuracy.
Actually, what kind of climate is Hong Kong in again?
What's that?
What kind of climate is Hong Kong in again?
China, so relatively hot. So
fuck
here's...
China.
Another interesting thing is that the Kar-98K probably was one of the worst bolt actions of the war. Ironically, the Lee Enfield here is generally considered one of the best ones because it was a 10-round magazine and it was actually surprisingly quick to reload. I'm gonna go ahead and note that my dude carrying the Thompson here implies that he's probably a sergeant or higher. And they went with the 20-round stick mag, which... alright. I get the feeling I'm not supposed to be this far forward yet.
Yeah, you seem to be a bit surrounded there.
It's fine, we're fine.
Everything's on fire, but everything's fine.
Anyway, so... there's actually interviews with some British commandos that's pretty fascinating. They talk about when they'd get back from missions, the first question wouldn't be who died or anything like that, it would be where's the Thompson? The Thompson was an expensive rifle, or expensive weapon. I don't know why I'm calling it a rifle. And that guy's calling for a medic.
It's an expensive barrel that shoots bullets real fast.
Yeah, it's a fairly expensive weapon, so... What the hell is going on back here?
Listen, we do not ask questions.
Like, I'm not sure why they chose to give the Brit guy a Thompson and not like the Sten machine gun or just nothing. Like, if we're supposed to be an officer or something like that, even a Webley would have been more interesting as a story point, but might have just been for player convenience. Which again leads back to, well, why not the Sten?
Target audiences, I suppose.
And just for brevity's sake, let's play with the K98. So the K98 is not a bad rifle. Like, don't take what I was saying that it was the worst bolt action as like, oh my god, it was so terrible. It was nothing special. It was accurate enough for government work. It was easily producible for, you know, whatever, however you want to put it. It did nothing special. It was like the Springfield. The Springfield was also not that great a rifle. I forgot they put the rain cover on the front of this gun, or I would actually probably stuck with the infield. Remember, this is one of the games where the enemy will try and throw grenades back at you, but I might be remembering that wrong. I know they did it in Medal of Honor that came out around the same time.
Might also be a difficulty thing.
But here's the other thing. We're not using the peep sight, which is what we should be using. We're using the long range part. Jesus Christ. I forget how grenade happy they were even on normal. I thought that was just a thing from playing on higher difficulty when I was doing this earlier. Yeah, we should be using the peep sight. This was done probably for player convenience because peep sights never work right in video games.
The peep sight was the one on the side of the gun, right?
No, the peep sight's the like the small hole. So when you're looking at it here, you see that small hole in the back? That's actually what you're supposed to be looking for. In real life, they're not that hard to use. In video games, you either have to modify the model so that they're easier for the player to use, or you have to make them impossible to use for the average player because they're not realistically represented because you can't look through them the same way you would, blah blah blah.
And you just don't see anything on the screen anymore.
This is something that Rising Storm 2 actually did. They actually used the bigger, damn it. They used the bigger flip-down sight of the M16 because it's easier for players to see through. Another thing that you don't see in a lot of video games, like a video game get right, is like the AK-47 in Rising Storm 2. It's actually a lot easier to shoot than the real one. It's got real AKs have a blurry front post, or blurry sight vision. And that precision shooting is not super easy with it, but they weren't really there for precision shooting anyway, so whatever.
Rising Storm 2 became a bit of a disappointment over time anyway.
What, you mean with the lack of maps, or the odd decisions in some of their choices?
You mean like the bootleg and Vietnam guns?
Yeah, well, that's... I'm not going to get into the politics behind Tripwire being stupid.
Okay.
Basically, there's a reason Killing Floor 2 also has a Christian metal soundtrack, though, rather than just good metal. So this Crusader here would turn that Panzer II inside out. That Panzer II would be, like, trying to panic and flee at this point.
And have a giant hole in it. Front if it gets hit.
It does... That one does get killed in one shot. That is a Panzer II, I think. I don't remember which version. The Crusader would definitely turn it inside out, though. And that's kind of the running theme of the German armor for a long time, is that up until the Panther, we just didn't see anything more threatening. Like, you hear about how threatening the Tiger was. The Americans had 4 confirmed encounters with the Tiger tank.
So in the encounters they had, it might have been threatening, but to the overall war effort.
Well, except for they're not, because one of them was already disabled by its own engine, being a piece of shit. One of them was on a train, and 2 of them were engaged in combat, and were knocked out by Shermans with either 75s or 76s. You also run into issues like German armor was actually very susceptible to falling from HE rounds and things like that. Which, yeah, basically if you... I'll look for pictures of it, but it looks like the armor shatters like glass when you hit it. And if you're on the inside of that, it's not good for your health. You start seeing stuff like spalling liners, which is kind of like a rubber coating that keeps the armor from fragmenting into the crew compartment as easily.
Does the Thompson have as much kick as it shows in this video?
Was the what?
In the game, it seems like the Thompson has more kick than it should.
No, the Thompson was a 45 SMG with a very high rate of fire. It had an atrocious amount of kick.
We'll have to finish this.
Remember I was talking about the rate of fire being one of its problems?
Yeah.
That was...
Good luck pushing that down.
So we've got a Gewehr 43 here, which I don't think we should have. This should probably be a 41. And I don't know if these guys would have even been issued the 43 or the 41. That would be something I'd have to look into.
German grenade, move!
I really don't like how grenade happy they are.
Ground troops by the 88! Come on, take them out!
At least it's not insurgency where every other few minutes you encounter someone with an RPG.
Yeah, that's also a problem. Alright, I've got to do this a little bit more because
I think
all of you are
Storm
already here.
just doesn't die.
Let me know if the stream is too quiet now, but I'm having a hard time hearing you guys talk in the middle of the firefights. Okay, so other thing is the Gewehr and the SVT and all that, we're firing full-sized rifle rounds. I would not be having the issue of chest shots not knocking people down, but it's a video game, so we're not going to complain too much about that. I just wanted to point it out.
88, we've got to capture it!
Alright, so
I really like a complaint there.
the 88 was actually a good gun, and depending on which 88 you're talking about, oh, that's some shameful shooting on my part there. So some of the later German cannons, like the Panther cannon in particular comes to mind, actually was not that good a cannon outside of a tank destroyer roll. Believe it or not, you don't want too much penetration on tank rounds. For a number of reasons, part of which is it screws up things like HE loads. Because the faster the bullet, the harder it is to load HE into it effectively without basically destroying the round. Should go find another Enfield and actually use it instead of this. You have an Enfield, thank you. And some of those animations are pretty bad.
Yeah, that's how old is the game again?
I don't remember. It's old enough. Like, it came out at about the same time as Fear. That's supposed to be a Bren carrier?
I thought this game came out a little bit before Fear.
I thought the Bren carrier was about... I remember them coming out about the same time because I remember my dad asking if I wanted Call of Duty 2 or Fear for for Christmas. So... I ended up going with Call of Duty 2. Go figure.
Yeah, but you got the chance to play both in the end.
Yeah, ironically, I think I would have been happier with Fear, but Call of Duty 2 was also a good game, and I played a lot of multiplayer.
Plus, you got to bug people with history questions.
I've got a real bad feeling about this. You keep your bad feelings to yourself. Just keep your eyes on the road, Private.
And we're dead. We're right dead.
Yeah, you probably have broken his spine hitting the...
Hey, do me a favor. I'm gonna have to look this up. I need to look up when this takes place. Look up when the Germans stole the Panzerschreck. Because it was based on stolen bazookas, and I don't remember how early in the war they had it. I'm wondering if these aren't supposed to be Panzerfaust, not Panzerschrecks. This is just morbid curiosity.
Well, apparently they stole several bazookas in the early North Africa encounters.
Yeah, here you go. There's Captain Price. Everybody knows him. Yeah, I know that they stole it, and I knew it was stolen in Africa, but I don't remember if the Panzerschreck got issued out before the African campaign was more or less gone.
Let's see, what year was the African campaign again? Because it was in service in 1943.
I'm thinking this is supposed to be 1941. This might be later, I'd have to look.
Dog 6! Come in, Dog 6!
North Africa campaign is, let's see,
Maybe
1940 to 1943.
Yeah, I mean, well, the real campaign was. I'm thinking that this part takes place in... Oh, well, it's Tunisia. Where is Tunisia? Damn it. You're actually trying to make me remember dates at this point, and the African campaign's also another one of my kind of weak spots.
Tunisia's in North Africa.
Well, I know it's in North... I meant more...
The Tunisian campaign took place in November of 1942 to May of 1942.
So they might have had some Panzerschreck at the very end of it. But they were forced to surrender, supposedly.
Yeah, next time we get to a loading screen, it's going to give us a journal entry. I'll look at the date on that. Because for some reason, I've got it in my head that this is 1941. See, and that Stuka there's got the cannons on it, which makes me think this is later in the war than I think it is. Though, I don't remember when they started doing the Stuka, what is it, D that's got the cannon? Stuka was kind of a garbage aircraft, though. Like, outside of the opening days of the wars, once everybody started getting actual aircraft in the air, the Stuka became a death trap. And for whatever reason, the Germans decided they didn't need to update it or anything like that. Which, when you compare it to, like, the P-47, which was a goddamn monster...
Well, obviously they just had to learn to pilot it better.
You also get into the other fun issue that the Germans didn't have any good bombers or anything like that, and...
Yes, that's
Just
on
like,
the other
well,
side.
it's like, what was your long-term plans here?
Oh, they totally had good bombers, it was their grenadiers.
Clearly, when Hitler inspected the pilots of these Stukas, he just went, get good stuff.
I think a bad joke killed our host here.
The other thing... Sorry, I'm, like, trying not to die and trying to figure out what I need to be shooting at the same time. The Stuka dive siren that everybody knows was actually taken off pretty late because it turns out drawing attention to yourself is a good way to get shot down by anti-air emplacements.
You know, once the fear effect is gone, people just went, ooh, free candy.
Okay, so good news, or bad news, I actually died there because the Germans have better vision and smoke than I do. Clearly they are the superior.
The Germans actually better?
Oh hey, there's a Bren there. Where is the Bren? Give me the Bren. So in multiplayer, the Bren was a goddamn monster if you learned how to use it. And by learn how to use it, I mean learn how to tolerate the heat sight.
It's a weird design decision for every time you point at a allied trooper, it shows their name right in the middle of the screen.
It's so you get connected to your allies and don't want them dead. And so you know which to hate when they refuse to give you their stuff.
Yeah, in multiplayer, this was like the gun. I hated playing against the British in multiplayer.
Don't worry, World War, the Bren assault rifle was...
The UMP? I mean the MP40?
Sure.
The reason I made that joke is Modern Warfare 2, if you ever look at some of the coding, they borrowed pretty heavily from World at War. The MP40 and the UMP are identical, functionally. The Commando perk from Modern Warfare 2 was actually the Bayonet perk, with the downside of the Bayonet perk removed, things like that.
I mean, that helps them with pumping out the game so fast, I suppose, on a yearly to bi-yearly basis.
It's not a terrible idea, recycling code and things like that. I'm more giving them shit because the MP40 was busted as shit in World at War. It killed at 3 shots at all ranges, no matter what you did. So suppressor, long range, didn't matter. It always did 3-shot kills. Which is not good game. What the hell's going on with my compass here? Clear the Mata route to Tunis.
I take it they just wanted that compass wobble effect of it actually needing a moment to aim where it's supposed to be.
Yep. I'm not sure what we're actually supposed to do here. I think I'm supposed to kill this thing. I probably should have, talked over the instructions that the game wanted me to have.
I'm supposed to add to the giant objective star on the compass. What was that noise?
Oh, hi, tank. Thought I got clubbed by a German at a cover or something. That was kind of funny. So realistically, that half track would be either trying to drive the fuck out or people would be bailing out of it, one or the other. No way in hell a half track is going to try and get into a pissing match with a Crusader.
I think World of War actually had one where they counter the tank around the corner and everyone just fails.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious when this takes place, because I'm pretty sure we've got some anachronisms going. That Stuka probably should have killed Lucky Lucy there. Top armor on that tank wasn't that great. And those 20mm cannons should have been able to penetrate the compartment from above.
Yeah, but I thought that the actual air strikes were supposed to be mostly ineffective.
To a degree, but when you're doing direct fire like that, it's not as ineffective as you think. I found it kind of interesting that they didn't try and turn the AA cannon on you. They sure as shit don't mind you doing it. This weapon is not effective against it. Bullshit. It's a 20mm cannon with HE rounds in a game.
Yeah, I think infantry will explode against such a thing.
Oh my god, it's Space Invaders! I don't think the game's gonna let me actually lead targets like I would in War Thunder. This is an accurate representation of what happens when Stukas fly in areas with anti-aircraft or air cover, though. I don't think they had this many Stukas in this immediate area, though, game. This is kind of comedic and not the tone they should be going for.
I mean, I'm starting to wonder if they had this many Stukas to begin with. Just full stop.
Probably not enough to waste like that, but I mean, seeing fireballs falling from the sky in the form of destroyed aircraft is pretty funny.
D-Day, 1944.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force. You are about to embark upon the Great Crusade, toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In
They had
company with
something
our
like
brave allies and
2,400
brothers in
some
arms
odd
on other fronts,
aircraft
you will
destroyed
bring
during
about
that
the destruction of the German war machine,
campaign.
the elimination
So
of
probably
Nazi
had enough.
tyranny over the
They did, but I doubt they all flew straight towards a single anti-aircraft emplacement like that.
Your task will
Well,
not be an
no.
easy one.
That's more what I
He
meant.
is well trained, well equipped, and battle hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has happened since the Nazi triumphs of 1940-41. The United Nations have inflicted upon the Germans great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensive has seriously reduced their strength in the air and their capacity
Yeah, that's an understatement.
to wage war on the ground.
Strategic bombing did a serious number on German production and ability to actually wage war.
And placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck.
So,
Let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble.
a lot of these games like to put aircraft on D-Day. The Germans had 2 aircraft that made it into the air on D-Day. And this is kind of why I actually wanted to redo this game, is Point du Hoc. You don't hear a lot about it. This is the Ranger mission where they had to climb a cliffside under heavy fire and secure an artillery position. Turns out the artillery wasn't where it was supposed to be, and they had to kind of go and looking for it. And it's a British driver there, and I want to say it was either British or Canadian. I think it was supposed to be Canadian drivers, but Point du Hoc may have been British. So the throwing up that you see in all of these was probably because these guys had a pretty heavy lunch or breakfast, however you want to put it, and some other pills and things like that. It's not necessarily that all of these guys are just arbitrarily seasick. Another thing is this game doesn't actually show you the stuff that the Rangers carried up on the top. Interviews with the surviving Rangers said they nicknamed the thing they had to carry up ice cream machines because they were huge. And kind of look like ice cream machines, apparently. Another thing this game gets wrong, and a lot of games get wrong, the guy shooting into the water, bullets don't do well against water. That's the same reason they don't do well against sandbags. It shatters the, yeah. Physics is an interesting beast.
Because what is it? The friction of the bullet against air is far lower than the friction of the bullet against water.
Yeah, like
There's a better word for it, but I'm tired.
when you shoot a bullet in the water, it tends to shatter.
And if it doesn't shatter, then it just slows down very quickly.
Yeah. Oh no, you gotta turn your mic up. Oh, apparently I'm out of ammo. You have a gun? That isn't the Thompson. Excuse me, troopers, do you have a gun? Oh, you've got ammo. Alright. Alright, so we got the BAR. He's shooting the Garand. Why is the private the one making the calls and not the sergeant, or corporal, or the lieutenant that's bound to be out here, or the...
Get up this rope to the top of the cliff! We gotta get up there and take out those coastal guns!
Obviously, everyone is dead.
And this is actually, like, tamer than what really happened. They did actually climb these ropes under heavy machine gun fire. What they didn't show is that these ropes were fired by rocket-powered grappling hooks.
That's
Honestly-
pretty badass.
Because it was
Honestly,
100...
I'm not surprised, because otherwise I imagine they would just place the little mortars and just fire them by that.
A couple of other things, you could actually reload a Garand. Band of Brothers actually does a pretty good job of showing that one off. It always kind of annoyed me that you couldn't reload a Garand for arbitrary reasons. The other thing is that you always hear people talk about how loud the ping was. The ping was actually pretty quiet, especially if you count the fact that you were likely in the middle of a gunfight. Bloke on the Range did a pretty good video on it, where he and a buddy tested that out, and reliably he either didn't hear... Huh, interesting. Yeah, thank you. Reliably either wouldn't hear it coming, or couldn't react to it quick enough, or any of the other stuff.
Also, wasn't that the video where one might get the actual reload and one might come himself?
Yeah, like there's a couple of things that was pretty interesting. So we're gonna go ahead and destroy a rumor, I guess. A myth right here. The Steg 44 was not the origin of the MP40 or MP40, AK-47.
MP4. Also, wasn't the Steg 44 not in use yet at this point, or?
No, it probably would have seen minimal use. I don't know if it would have been used here, but... You have a bar? I want a bar, thank you. Alright, so... More gun nerdery. You probably wouldn't have the bipod on the front of this gun. It added an extra chunk of weight that nobody wanted to bother carrying. Especially when you consider that the BAR is firing 30-06 rounds, which is not... a small round.
Also, a little question of curiosity. When you were talking about the parts of the corporal and the like. I can't imagine they had all those holes filled yet at the start of World War II. How did they decide who got what rank?
They actually did. We weren't that far out from like the Mexican-American War and things like that. Matter of fact, Patton was semi-notorious for the Mexican-American War, because apparently he liked to ride people down on his horse and shoot at them.
Well, that explains why people kept saying Patton was almost controversial. But never told him why.
He was controversial because he didn't understand things like PTSD, which they called shell shock at the time. And was just kind of abrasive and blunt and not necessarily the best general. He wasn't a bad general by any stretch, but he suffered the same problem a lot of the German generals did. He tended to outrun his supply lines too often and things like that. So, generally when you're talking fire for effect is the smoke round they're going to fire to make sure that you're not going to hit a friendly. In Call of Duty 1, the bar was the best weapon in the game, by the way. For multiplayer. It was pretty ridiculous. The Steg 44 was up there too. Anyway, so back to the Steg 44. The Steg 44 actually borrows parts from the Winchester 1907. Which was an early attempt at creating an assault rifle. Go figure. The AK-47 actually borrows parts from the M1 Garand, not the Steg 44. They look semi-similar on the outside. Internally, they're completely different guns.
Also, looking at the Winchester 1907, if that thing fired even a little bit rapidly, it looks like a Helter Holt without any foregrip.
It's in Call of Duty. Then,
Battlefield 1.
yeah, it's in Battlefield 1. I actually used the trench version regularly as a medic, or did when I played.
Still looks like alcohol.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Also,
If you really want to get into the argument of early assault rifles, though, the French Rib Royale, or whatever the hell you want to call it, is actually probably a better candidate. But every day, yeah, yep. Have a good one.
catch you later.
Sorry, I've got like a weird encyclopedic knowledge of guns because I'm a nerd. And American, go figure.
Sounds about right.
First squad on me! Keep moving!
Me personally, I find it interesting listening to you ramble on about it, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I'm trying not to ramble too much about it. It's just there's a lot of neat little interesting facts here that... Where's his buddy? Private Peterson there should have a, loader with him. Let's see, is there anything of neat interest over here? Not really.
So why didn't the bar suffer from its small magazine?
It did. It was not that great a weapon for the time period we were using it in. It was designed for World War I, and we continued to use it. It was a heavy, hard to control LMG with multiple problems, but when you're talking about increasing squad firepower, a 20-round magazine with a heavy round is still something to be worried about for the enemy. Excuse me? Alright. Apparently that guy's head is bulletproof. I also find it kind of interesting that we've got a lot of mixed uniforms going on here. I can't remember if they had a more consistent uniform at this point or not. Sorry, I don't recognize most of the German units outside of like making fun of the 2nd SS and Steel Division. Because the SS were not good units. Most of them weren't, anyway. If you're talking good...
Shots fired.
They really weren't. They were fanatics. If you're talking good units, you're talking like Battle Group Blair. Shit, that's the only one I can remember off the top of my head right now. There was a couple of good SS divisions, but
Given it was World War II, I'd be surprised if shots weren't fired.
yeah, well, there's that too.
We found the damn guns. Get in there and fix them with your thermite grenades.
So
Keep an eye open for
this part's kind of fun, interesting because the guns aren't set up and they're ready. In real life, these were zeroed in on the beach. That's why the Rangers are here. The idea was that you didn't want artillery zeroed in on the beach already. Because, you know, that's kind of bad for an invading force.
Just a bit.
He said something about thermite grenades. Where are my thermite grenades?
But I mean, clearly, what are the chances that the artillery will score a direct hit on the enemy personnel? And I mean, it doesn't look like there's too many of them. How bad could it possibly be?
So, other thing here is, Band of Brothers showed the other fun way of dealing with artillery when you don't have the kit to actually deal with them. Which was just stuffing German grenades down them and, down the barrel. Thing is, the Potato Masher was actually kind of a shitty frag grenade. That's why most of them had to have a frag sleeve installed, because they were more high explosive than frag.
What?
Is there really such a thing as a thermite grenade?
Yeah. We still use them. You use it for material destruction.
I was I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
Sarge, I'm getting reports of the German troops still hold up
Since one of the cool things about thermite is it will burn on water, since the way that the reaction works, it's using aluminium oxide as the... Sorry, no, iron oxide. Yeah, iron oxide is the oxidizing source.
Yeah, basically, use it whenever you want to destroy something.
Did you guys find those guns?
America's Army 2 actually had a mission where you had to carry thermite grenades to destroy the Black Hawk as the attackers. Because you
So
were...
even if it doesn't do something, if these get something sensitive, like any mechanism, then the iron would probably just weld together anyway.
Yeah, well, that's what you were supposed to do. You dropped it on the flight computer to destroy all the important info there. Because you were there to rescue the pilots and destroy the Black Hawk in that mission. See, and I'm kind of this is gonna sound really dark and grim or whatever, however you want to put it, but hearing these guys call for sanitator when there's like no one else in the immediate area, it's just like calling for medic when you're the last guy standing. You should know you're not getting help at that point, kind of a situation.
I imagine it would be an oh fuck moment when they realize that they are indeed the only one left.
Yeah. But this is an early game, I'm not gonna give him too much shit about that, it's just kind of funny.
I would be A-okay with it. You just have one guy going, medic, I need a medic, turning around and just going, oh fuck.
Oh, the German I just killed, right? Alright. The dude's name popped up as I pulled the trigger on it. It's like, oh god, did I just kill a friendly?
So were shotguns in use during this time?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's like this would be, looks like a really, the shotgun is really good for this area.
They got used by the Marines in the Eastern Theater. I know that some got used out here too. Getting really tired of the grenade spam game. This is kind of lazy level design here. Hey, he's not an engineer. He doesn't have the stripe on the back of his helmet. He's not an engineer. Why is he the one with the dynamite? Sorry, I'm more joking. Anyway.
I mean, I wouldn't know, so it's not funny.
So, interesting. So there's something you don't see too often mentioned. Some of these gun emplacements were fake.
So they just made a concrete box for no reason?
No, they just didn't have the equipment to fill it. Damn it.
What if they were in fact inflatable?
We were the ones that tended to use inflatable armies. Which I'm sure is what you're alluding to, since I linked you the Ghost Army thing a little bit.
That is exactly what I'm referring to.
That is such a fascinating bit of history there.
I think it's great.
Wish I knew enough German to figure out what the hell these people are yelling at me. Oh, I didn't learn enough German to figure out what they were saying to me in Medal of Honor. Ein Papier bitte. No, hey, show me your papers. But yeah, in real life, MP40 was actually a very good gun. It was easy to produce, easy to control, decently reliable, accurate enough for government work. So when you're talking SMGs on it's not a bad thing. What was that? So yeah, these right here, this is where the artillery battery was supposed to be. And they moved it. Interesting enough, stuff like this, if you look at it up close, it looks really dumb. When you're looking at it from the sky, these look just like artillery emplacements. The British actually...
I gotta say...
Oh, go ahead.
All of those, what would you call it? The planks that lead up from the trench. I'm not sure if they're a support or something else. They're all identical. They all have the exact same slightly off-center slant at the top.
That's kind of funny.
It's like, for a job that's supposed to look a little bit hacked and rushed, it's very precise. Of course, I know it's an older game, so they probably couldn't have like a dozen props for the same thing, but...
No, especially because this level's honestly kind of big. If we're not having any loading screens or anything like that, and you're looking at the time period,
Oh yeah.
I'll give them credit on that. I'm not gonna...
Oh, I'm not gonna begrudge at that either, I just find it very amusing.
Let's be honest, we probably would have clubbed these guys and tried to kidnap them at this point. Well, actually, probably not. I make that joke, but I know that the Airborne were like, yeah, we don't have the capability to keep prisoners, so kill them all. And that's actually allowed by the Geneva Convention. If you can't safely hold a prisoner, you're allowed to execute him.
Makes sense too, because otherwise you might end up getting more people hurt when they try to escape.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. You're not required to put yourself at risk for the sake of your enemy.
What's that thing on the ceiling?
That's what I was looking at. I think just reference points or whatever.
Need ammunition and reinforcements. Many casualties. Over.
Easier than hanging sign too, so that makes sense to me.
Wilco, out.
Let's see, June 1944, of course, because we're pointing to Huck, which doesn't mean...
I think H.G. Wells would be like to be quoted for a war game.
Yeah, a lot of these quotes, when you know... It comes across as kind of disingenuous. I'm just gonna...
Oh god, that one.
See, and these are definitely the weakest part of the mission here. I mentioned it before, but you also get stuff like the Springfield here was not that great a gun either. Like, it was passable enough and got used for long enough, but it's nothing too special.
Ultimately, the fact that it worked is probably what matters.
Yep, and we replaced it with the Springfield outside of sniper rifles, so go figure.
Guess you better hope that they're right-handed.
Yeah, it would be a shame if they were wrong-handed.
I am left-eye dominant, and which means that technically I should be shooting rifles left-handed. I've actually taught myself to shoot rifles left-handed. It's not as hard as you think. You actually just change how you rack the bolt. It's not nearly as bad as you think it is.
Shouldn't those grenades be causing more of a boom?
Not really. So, there is no way in hell that half-track driver would have his viewport open like that. Because in reality, some asshole like me would shoot the driver out. And by some asshole like me, I mean any of the machine gunners paying attention. I can confirm this because we used to do that to idiots in Red Orchestra that did that. I was like, oh, that's cute, you've got your hatch open. Let me introduce to you why that's a really bad idea.
That, and I mean, if you disable their driver, then they've got nowhere to go. They either have to abandon the entire vehicle, or have their gunner probably move down.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you do, is you'd have somebody else hop in the spot until you can pick up another crewman. And since Red Orchestra required you to have crewmen in your tanks, it was actually a valid way of slowing down the enemy. Of course, I was also the fan of the people that would throw grenades into those hatches if they were open.
That's great. Granted, if you had a use for the vehicle, I could imagine grenading it being slightly less.
Well, you can't steal it in that game, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say, even getting shot, well, whatever, we've already been over this. I can't joke too much about the game's video gaminess.
Can't joke about the video game's video gaminess.
I was just more joking that, like, a 30-6 shot to the thigh like that, you're probably not gonna stand up and try and fight. You're probably just gonna lay there going, yeah, that hurts.
Probably. But I mean, then you'd incentivize disabling people rather than killing them.
You kind of want to do that anyway. That's why the M16 round does what it does. Yeah,
you gotta kill them outright.
ideally, you kill a guy, you're down one, they're down one guy. You wound a guy, they're down 3 guys. So I know that the Rangers actually did defend against a counterattack after Point Du Hoc, and I'm pretty sure that this is what this is supposed to be representing. What this is supposed to be representing, I'm just not 100% sure on the details on this one. It's really a shame that you don't hear more about the Ranger exploits on D-Day, because they did some... Like, everybody knows how crazy the Airborne were, but you don't hear about the Rangers as much, and... Rangers were up there doing some crazy, crazy shit too.
Might be because the aircraft side of things was a bit more novel at the time.
Even then, like, Rangers did some... Like I said, Point Du Hoc used the rocket... Sorry, I was aiming at the same time. The rocket rope grappling hooks and all that. Yeah, I'm running there. My dude doesn't have a sprint button, settle down. So the 1919 here, again, it's a very serviceable machine gun. Nothing special, nothing bad. Its design was solid enough that modern machine guns, at least American ones, borrow from it. The M60 and some of the other stuff use like its reload mechanics and a couple other things. I believe the M60 is literally just straight up a combination of the MG42 and the MG42 and the 1919 together. Credit where it's due, I'm definitely feeling like I need to be running here. That's an interesting bit of programming there, though. They won't shoot you if you're not facing them as often. Which is the thing you see in a lot of games, actually, because it's less frustrating to the players.
So they actually pushed them back this far?
Like I said, I'm not 100% sure on the details on this one as much. I know that they actually did hold the town against a pretty sizable German force. I'm surprised that we didn't get any of the anti-tank weapons, because they were the M118 or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if Rangers got those or not. I know that they would have probably had the bazooka, or at least a couple bazookas.
We gotta straighten out the line! Pull back to baseline, Charlie! Move! Let's go, soldier! On your feet!
See, and this is an interesting running gun battle. I'll give him credit for this, just as a gameplay thing again.
We need all the firepower we can get! Your squad needs you! Let's go!
I do think it's kind of funny that we left that there, though.
Sarge, I got through! Boys at Omaha Beach are on the way! We also got some flyboys coming in over the channel! Coming in when?
So why is it... Was it Omaha that they ran from?
Minutes, sir!
I don't know who reinforced them. Omaha is... I don't know why we don't have any armor from the other beaches, because the other beaches actually went pretty well. I would have figured we'd have gotten, reinforcements from the D-Drive, Shermans or something like that.
How would the Sherman stack against the tanks that you're seeing right now?
The Shermans, like, ruined the shit out of the Panzer IV. I mentioned it earlier that you didn't see a lot of, that the Sherman was actually a better tank than you think. The reason you didn't see the 76 Shermans until later is because the 75 had a really good HE round, and you didn't need it bigger than the 75 to kill most of the German tanks we ran into. It would turn Panzer IVs and down inside out. And even against the Tiger and whatnot, you can kill the Tiger with HE pretty easily. Never mind, like, the King Tiger was not that great a tank either. Because you get into stuff like the M8 Greyhound. There's that actual confirmed kill of an M8 Greyhound killing a, M8 Greyhound killing a, Tiger 2. Apparently the crew drove up behind it in the Bokage, and the official report states that they fired until they saw smoke coming out of the engine.
What's the Greyhound?
M8 armored car.
Wow. That's ballsy.
Yeah, well, welcome to some of the crews. If you want some crazy stuff, go look up the M18 battle reports. The guys that crewed the M18... Oh, shit, I might be dead. Oh, okay. The guys that crewed the M18 were pretty nuts. They, turns out they were actually pretty effective, partially because the German tanks' turrets couldn't turn fast enough to keep up with the M18 Hellhounds. Or, Hellhounds, Hellcats. Oh, I want that.
Are they still working on mechanical turn, or... I don't know.
Some of them were. Some of the Panthers still used manual turning. Like the Panther, you couldn't turn the turret without having the engine running.
That sounds like a design flaw.
Well, I mean, it's not too surprising because, you know, you need the power to it, but they couldn't do some of the stuff. God, I'd have to look up the exact... There was something kind of weird about it. Like, you couldn't run it in half engine or whatever the hell they, some of the other tanks would do. Where they'd have the engine on just enough that you could operate the tank to a degree, but not actually move it anywhere, that kind of thing. The bigger problem with Panther is that some German engineer was an idiot and decided that the tank needed to be amphibious even though nobody in the design process actually wanted it to be amphibious and the tank was too heavy to actually make it amphibious. But they gave a rubber coating to the engine compartment, which meant that it was actually more susceptible to being lit on fire and things like that.
Flawless engineering.
Yeah, most of what I've heard about the German engineering of the time is it was over-engineered. It required too much,
Oh, that's absolutely true. The Tiger... So, the Tiger tank, the biggest big flaw of the Tiger, other than shitty metallurgy in the armor, was the fact that you couldn't salvage one Tiger to repair another Tiger.
Tyler, deploy green smoke on the roof of the bunker. Make sure the flyboys know we're still here.
I also heard that field repairs were pretty hard.
That's what I'm talking about.
Smoke on the roof of the bunker.
So, a Sherman gets knocked out, the crew bails, runs back to base. Battle ends, and you've gone back after the fact to, salvage what you can, scavenge what you need to, all that kind of thing. The Sherman you can strip parts out of and stick into another Sherman. You may not be able to use that Sherman anymore, but you're going to continue to use it. One or the other, it's going to still get something out of it. The, Tiger, you couldn't do that. There's a bunch of other design flaws in the Tiger, like the overlapping road wheels meant that repairing parts of it were really hard. The Panther, in order to repair the engine, you had to pull the turret off. Like, there's a lot of really, really dumb design decisions going on there.
That one more complicated, you make something, the harder it is to swap it out in the field.
Alright, so there's a Sherman. That is a 75 Sherman. I can't tell which version that is. It's either an A2 or an A4, or A3, not A4. Ah! Alright. That's pretty funny, actually. That's what I get for wanting to take a closer look at what Sherman model they're using.
So with the pillbox here that has the weird kind of step-down ceiling to it, what's the benefit of having a design like that rather than just paint smoke?
What, you mean like this? Well, it makes it easier to relocate, and if you're over here like this, you have a spotter up top, and he's going, alright, well, they've got incoming from over here, whatever. It's making it easier to spot and do things. Alright, so that's a mine plow. You dig it to the ground, it makes the mines explode in front of the tank instead of under it.
Lonely, windswept point on the northern shore of France. At dawn on the morning of the 6th of June, 1944, the Rangers looked
And
up
it's
and
good
saw
for
the
running
enemy
people
soldiers,
over.
the edge of the cliffs shooting down at them with machine guns and throwing grenades. And the American Rangers began to climb. They shot rope ladders over.
Okay, yeah, anyway, we're just gonna move on. We're still in France. Alright. This part right here, I don't know if we actually did that or not. It's not an uncommon thing, though, is to just flatten anywhere if you think there's an enemy hiding there.
Expect a crew of at least 2.
So this area was particularly bad for the German tanks. And American tanks actually had some interesting innovations, and that's where you started seeing like the mine flails and things like that, where they would try and cut their way through the Bokage, because this shit right here, all these bushes, actually tangled tanks up pretty bad. They'd get hung up, and just couldn't go anywhere.
Really? I thought the tanks were designed to go through stuff like this.
These are actually thicker than they look. It wasn't you kind of see that problem in... Oh, interesting. You saw similar problems in Steel Division again. Like, Steel Division did a lot of interesting abstraction of real problems. This is a multiplayer map, by the way.
Where the hell are you going, Taylor? Hang back and cover the squad.
Seems very open.
It's 11 o'clock.
I'm moving forward to kill shit. Fuck off.
Never.
Yeah, it was pretty funny talking in the Steel Division forum for Steam. I used to shitpost there a lot.
Problems of my own.
Because there was people complaining about,
I thought you had it. Jeez Louise, McCloskey. How the hell did you get to be company gunner? Shoot chickens in a barn.
because he probably could carry the gun and shoot it without complaining too much. People were complaining about the Jumbo Sherman basically ignoring the Tiger tank and things like that, which is actually what they did. and they look similar enough to real normal Shermans that. Oops. They look close enough to Shermans that the Germans had a hard time telling that they were jumbos and would waste ammo on them. And in Steel Division, they actually behaved pretty much like they do in the real war. And a bunch of the German players were whining that the jumbo was broken and blah 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 and how unfair it was. And we had one saying that it wasn't realistic, and I used his sources and his information to prove that they had actually abstracted it properly. That's really funny. What the hell's he talking about in the window?
You shot the guy 10 seconds earlier before he...
That's what I'm saying, like, what the hell is he talking about? I'm like,
I got problems of my own! Where's your spare can of ammo? I thought you had it! Jeez Louise, McCloskey! How the hell did you get to be company gunner? Shooting chickens in a barnyard? Private Braybird! Braybird, you left this ammo on the road! Forget your ass if it wasn't glued on! Hawkins! Garcia!
okay, hold on. Okay, so Private Brayburn isn't gonna be carrying the fucking ammo. He's a radio man. He's here is probably gonna be the carrying the ammo.
Yeah, that radio isn't light.
That's what I'm saying. You're not gonna have the radio man also humping ammo.
McCloskey, Brayburn, Taylor! Get up here! We gotta clear out these buildings!
Probably Private P's there.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Like, oh, interesting. Alright. I haven't played with pistols in this game yet. I don't remember how good or bad they are. Oh, hey, they're shooting at me.
Oh, does this game actually increase your speed when you have the pistol up?
It seemed like it, yeah. Well, 1911's not doing too bad, I guess, but... So, I know that we were talking, hey, is the, Seg 44 actually to be over here that much, or over here? It may have actually shown up here, I don't think it did, but it sure as hell isn't going to be in the numbers that we're seeing it in this game.
Wouldn't you see a lot more of the 40s?
Yeah, MP40s were definitely a lot more common. But I'm not gonna... Again, it's a video game. Outside of the morbid curiosity thing, I'm not gonna go, oh my god, it's terrible. Are we done? Oh. Alright, well, we haven't seen the German sniper rifle yet. I think it just uses a basic T-post. Yep.
Cleared. Let's go. German. Stop. Man down.
Man, your compass gets really cluttered.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the compass. I'm kind of glad they got rid of it in later games. It's a holdover from Medal of Honor, if I remember right, because Medal of Honor had a similar one, but I actually kind of preferred Medal of Honor's. Because what it did is, as you got closer to the objective, the 2 points would get closer together. So it made it a lot more obvious when you were getting close to what you were supposed to be. I do not like the fact that your AI buddies can stop you from getting into cover, by the way. And that is a huge zoom on this. It's kind of interesting, some of the mechanics in this game are really still lingering around.
Shoot those bastards! Jackie to the room!
It's just the UI is definitely dated.
Oh, it is, but at the same time, like, vaulting over windows, the regenerating health, there's a couple of details that are... Why is there a 1911 right here? Well, whatever.
Area secure!
Kinda regretting dropping my, Springfield for this scope, because this feels like it's far more zoomed in. Also, apparently that bottle stopped a bullet.
German infantry! On the first floor! Open fire! Nailed them!
So how often did Nazis actually mark off their headquarters with flags draped from windows like that?
Were they a saner group of people? Probably not as often, but the Nazis were noted for being kind of dumb. This isn't me being fully sarcastic either, like, they did a lot of really dumb, weird shit.
I mean, I would expect this stuff like in Germany, but it seems like it's more an expectation of, you know, theater and whatnot.
Keep in mind this is occupied Normandy. Like, they've been here for a while. This isn't like a recent capture or anything like that. I'm surprised we're not seeing like FG-42s, because they already went with some kind of rare stuff, and the FG-42 was in this game. I'm not gonna lie, this feels like it's dragging just a little bit.
You got so many objectives to this map.
Yeah, like, it's interesting fighting house to house, but... like this crap right here, where I'm trying to figure out where the game has hidden my last enemy. Found him. Oh, nope, that wasn't the last one.
Doesn't help with the AI because the age of the game is kind of spotty.
Interesting. So we got the SVT, or the SVT, I'm gonna keep calling it that. Got the Gewehr 43 sniper now.
So imagination, is that scope like offset to the right?
It's offset. That wasn't too rare. The British did it too. It allowed you to do stripper clips with it.
Oh, I see.
In the Gewehr's case, I'm not sure what the purpose was, because you're not using stripper clips on a Gewehr, but... I swear these are more zoomed in than the American rifle was.
Could also be because you're engaging at closer range than you have been for most of the map.
No, because I would swear that the, we're gonna get, well, I don't remember where I dropped my, whatever. It's quicker to do it this way anyway. Got the post office here, that's interesting. Yes, sir, we're not in a house. I just want to stress that.
I definitely wouldn't want to sneak this barn.
Oh, those weren't friendlies chasing me up here. Neat. Like, that's an interesting way of doing a pitched battle. Because it focuses your attention in small areas so you don't realize that there's not that many enemies on the screen, actually.
Taylor, climb that silo with Braeburn and
So what do you think? It doesn't spawn the enemies till you try to get close to the building?
Also, apparently we're a corporal. That's a side note. I don't see shit, sir. There's a map painting out in the background. See, why is the radio man up here? He should be hanging out with whatever. Anyway.
It looks good, even though it looks fake.
Well, I mean, again, time period wise, it's definitely a good looking game.
So which scope during a time period do you think had a better magnification?
Magnification, it really depended on who was making the scope and why. If you're talking best, like, usability scope, it kind of comes into personal preference. The American crosshairs were probably the weakest one just because the crosshair design without mil dot, there's no advantage to it, and you're blocking off part of your sight picture for it.
When did they start using the mil dot system?
I honestly don't know. But all mil dots, it makes it easier to like gauge things. That's what that comes down to.
Right, you can adjust without adjusting.
Well, you know what? If it's going to take two shots one or the other, I might as well stick with semi-auto. I could probably fix this by aiming higher, but I've been playing too much like Rainbow, well, not even Rainbow Six, but like various games where aiming for the body shots.
Blame Wildlands, I do.
Yeah, well, Wildlands is a good example of that one.
This seems like a really bad way to employ your mortars. Don't they have more range than that?
Depends on the mortar. Why won't you die? Thank you. Is this just less accurate? Is that what its downside is?
Could be you're hitting the mortar.
Which would imply that the mortar's got a gigantic hitbox. That's definitely just an accuracy issue. Interesting.
South, southeast! Ground mortar set up with a flak gun. Take it out! German mortar crew to the south!
Mortar crew to the south. Oh. I like that little waddle they got going there. It looks kind of like they're trying to hold the shit in.
Oh. Like the bullet penetration hit both the mortar crew members.
So I'm kind of interesting. There's no crew serve machine gun up top on the Shermans there, because they should have two anti-air 50 cals on the top of them, and by anti-air they generally tended to be anti. Oh hey, there's bad guys out there. Let's shoot at them with this too.
Why keep the ammo back?
Well, we didn't have logistics problems for most of the war, or a good chunk of it anyway.
Something about the Sherman models looks weird.
It's not very detailed. I'm not sure which version Sherman these are. These look like... It's too boxy.
Yeah, I think that's it. The corners are too rigid. It doesn't have any.
Let's see. I don't know. I don't remember how to tell the difference between the Shermans off the top of my head. There is a way to, but... Kine, 1944. Kine.
June 11th, 1944.
This is where 101st were like Band of Brothers.
British Commonwealth forces struggle to capture the major city of Caen. It is here that they are faced with the superior firepower of elite.
Didn't you have a map in Company of Heroes that took place in this?
You also had one in the original Call of Duty that took place in the exact same place, which is based on the actual place, which is also based on Band of Brothers and
path to the city of Caen.
Go figure. All right.
Listen up. McGregor will take second squad down this road and hit the Jerry's right flank. The rest of us will do our...
Why are we playing... Bryce, you're... whatever. Private Thompson, why don't you have your Thompson? Alright, I'll show myself out. Oh, okay, so, this right here. How we're holding the Sten, you were explicitly told not to do this. This actually causes damage to the gun. You're supposed... By holding it by the magazine like that, you actually cause the gun to start misfiring as you fire it more and more like this.
So what, you hold it under the barrel?
Yeah, you hold it by... There's a spot to hold it by behind the magazine well.
That's weird, because a lot of games I've seen that have this in it.
Yeah.
They all hold it by the magazine.
Yeah, you're not supposed to. It's actually bad for the gun. That's why I was pointing it out, because I mentioned it earlier. I wonder if they hold the Sten wrong. That's what I was meaning.
I get why they did it, 'cause it looks interesting.
Honestly, the Sten is interesting without it, just because it's such a weird idea for a gun, which is... Basically, look, we're low on materials and money, how about we build it however the hell we can?
not much of a recoil problem, 'cause it looks like it doesn't have much of a way of any sort of stock at all.
It's got a bent metal stock. It's an interesting gun. On that note, though, if I remember right, the Sten was designed with the idea of being able to accept the MP40 magazines, with the idea being that you could just steal ammo from the Germans.
On that note, how common was it? It's a common thing in video games to pick up the weapons of your enemies and keep going. Is that common enough in the battle?
It's not unheard of. Matter of fact, in Rainbow Six, I was kind of disappointed that Maverick didn't have this story is that he escaped Kabul with after like SCRE basically. I was kind of disappointed that one of his guns wasn't like an AK-74 too. It would have been an interesting idea, especially since like a lot of American SF units like to use Op-4 guns. Because if they have to steal ammo on their, as part of their mission, they can, and if they run into issues with... There's also the interesting bonus of, if you're shooting enemy equipment, it's harder to tell if it's an enemy shooting them or not, kind of thing.
Plus, if you leave casings and everything, you have a super identical caliber.
It's... Anyway, though, Selena has gone completely quiet. You alright over there?
Yeah. I'm a bit on the tired side, so I'm thinking I might head out soon.
Yeah, I'm ready to go to sleep, but at the same time, I'm actually kind of having fun. There's one part that I want to... There's one part I want to get to before we call it a night, so I'm gonna... Should probably finish this part. You were killed by a grenade. Watch out for the indicator. Well, maybe if the enemy didn't throw 6,000 of them at me.
I think also the tank traps. For the longest time I had no idea what they were, and I thought they just supported the barbed wire.
Okay, so this tells me... So the Battle of El Alamein was 1942 here, so yeah, they shouldn't have had Panzerschrecks there.
Might be that they're actually using Panzerfausts, but they were just reusing assets.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so...
Or they were hoping that nobody would notice the difference.
So part of this is that, Moscow, Stalingrad, Northern Egypt, Libya... Oh, that's interesting. It actually shows you your dude for each mission. There's one that I'm looking for, and I want to show off this intro because it's a moment in gaming that's always stuck out to me. Oh, it's over here. So this one's kind of neat. Holding the line, you get up on top of it, but this opening right here has always stood out to me as one of the better moments in gaming. I've always enjoyed this opening. And it's a shame, and I know this is going to sound weird to say, it's a kind of a shame that Call of Duty has lost the ability to do subtle, or low-key, maybe not necessarily subtle.
I never played a lot of war games, so truth be told, I never really noticed it was gone.
This mission this opening blew my mind as a kid. Anyway, just that opening is a really nice, quiet opening, considering what you get in the later games. Everybody's shouting and talking over each other, and we've got to get to the action trope.
Yeah.
So this is
Personally, I've never really been too fond of stories that go too hard for the we have to start in the middle of action, or otherwise the player will just click away.
So this right here, I think this is supposed to be a Willys Jeep and not a Land Rover like they should be using, which is the Pinky. Alright, anyway though, we're gonna end it here for now. Thanks for showing up, guys. I've seen that we had viewers hopping in and out throughout the night. I hope you guys had some fun seeing an old school game. And here does Ramble About History. I'll be completing this tomorrow and probably doing World at War after.
And then you have me being historically illiterate and making bad jokes.
You know what? It gives, gives an excuse to talk about it, so...
Yeah.
Well, have a good night.